G'day punters, here we go again. Today I'm going to talk about the intake and exhaust system on this Landcruiser. Now I really haven't done too much to the intake. The exhaust I've done a bit of work, I had a bit of work done. Now why am I starting in the cab? Well, I've got these two gauges up on the pillar pod. One's pyro, that's part of the exhaust system, and the other one's boost, part of the intake system. So they just monitor the exhaust and boost pressures. Generally when I'm just cruising along, boost will probably be about 5 or 6 pounds. If I'm towing or giving the vehicle a bit of a boot, she'll pump out about 20, 21 pounds. Exhaust temperature, depends on the ambient temperature around as well, but generally anywhere between 200 to 350 degrees. 350 degrees, probably giving it a bit of a boot. If I'm towing the camper trailer, maybe 400. I've probably seen it up to 450 on a trip down to Victoria last year on a long incline, just maintaining 110, 120 kilometers an hour towing the camper trailer. So that's an explanation on those gauges. I'm going to move to the engine bay now and talk about the intake and the exhaust. Replace the original snorkel with a Safari. It's not a 4-inch one, it's about 3 inches. To measure the pipe there, it's about 75 millimeters. So that's the only thing I've changed on that side of the intake. Standard airbox, standard filter, standard intake pipe across to the turbo. I'll show you a little bit more under the turbo just in another segment of this video. Once it comes out of the turbo, instead of coming up to the original top mount intercooler, as you know I've replaced that, there's a stainless pipe you can just probably see down there. That's meant to be 4 inches and it goes into my front mount intercooler, just mounted up the front here, all the way across. That's a PDI one from Western Australia. And from there it comes out and you'll see another stainless pipe, does an elbow back up into a single entry. That's the only mod I've done on the intake side of things, apart from the snorkel. Is it worth it? If you're towing, I think, then you're going to get a little bit of extra heat, probably. Performance wise, on the dyno results that I saw before and after installation, without any adjustment to the tune, there's probably about, well, there was less than 10 kilowatts increase in power. So is it worth it? Well, you be the judge of that. The front mount intercooler, it's a couple of grand to get fitted. Is that worth 10 kilowatts? Of itself, no, probably not. But considering the other factors about heat and performance with the tune, it probably is. Now I've come down underneath the engine just to show you the inlet pipe, and you can just see it up the top of the engine where it comes across down, and it feeds down into the turbo. What I wanted to particularly show you is the reduction in size of the intake right around here before it feeds into the turbo. You see it gets all squashed up here. And when it comes out of the turbo up here, hopefully you can see that, it's a reasonably small pipe too. Then it goes into my new stainless pipe for the intercooler. And the reason I wanted to draw your attention to those is, you see a bit of stuff on YouTube and other media about sticking 4-inch intakes on, and I mean they look nice, but you got to ask yourself the question, you know, if you're feeding a 4-inch pipe into the turbo there, the outside diameter there probably be no greater than 50 mils, so that's probably half the size of a 4-inch pipe. So you're going to have a restriction there anyhow, particularly coming across between that engine mount and the sump. The same coming out of the turbo. Is it worth having a 4-inch pipe when it gets constrained on the way into the turbo and on the way out of the turbo? I've got no answer to that. You probably have a better idea than me. I've seen some drag cruisers where they got top mount turbos, and certainly no restriction on the inlet on those, and the outlet obviously either, but they're a different ball altogether. So that's the inlet side of things. I'm going to talk about the exhaust. Hopefully I'm not muffling up the sound too much. One of the first things I did on this cruiser was swap out the manifolds either side, so you can see it's all nice and shiny, and also the crossover. I had CRD Tuning Australia Proprietary Limited do that work for me, and the exhaust. They ported out the manifolds from, I think the original spec is 38mm ID out to 45, and I think the original crossover is 38mm as well, and it's out to 45. So new manifolds each side and a new crossover. They did the exhaust. As I go across here, and you can see the exhaust coming out at the back of the turbo there, the dump pipe. You can see the pyro pickup here. Got a 4-inch exhaust. I've kept the a catalytic converter in there. I'll show you a little bit more further up the back. I should mention why those exhaust manifolds and the crossover are shiny, because they're ceramic coated inside and out. So I'm just in front of the rear wheels looking back at the exhaust. It was custom, and I think that cost me a couple of grand as well to get made. I come across into a little muffler and across the back here, and you'll see I've got a lot of exhaust tape around here, and I've actually got some truck exhaust clamps, one there and one down there, each side of the exhaust tape. And the reason I've stuck that, if you watch my airbag videos, you'll note that the airbag man says you need to maintain a specific distance between the bag and the exhaust, and I had a chat to them and said I couldn't do it. Well, I probably could have, but I would have had to rejig the whole exhaust. As it was, I did get a little bit of a mod done to the exhaust just to move it out of the way, and airbag man said to put exhaust tape on it, and that's it. Behind the rear wheel now, you can see it, exhaust pipe coming out near the toolbox, and then just dumps out the back here. A lot of black soot here. Yeah, it does pump black smoke. It's the nature of a heavy vehicle, I suppose, and a bit of fuel being pumped in. So it's 4-inch all the way through. When I did speak to an exhaust company about doing the cutout around here so they could move the exhaust over to the left because of the airbags, talked about taking it back down to 3-inch, but I had a tune based on 4-inch pipe and I wasn't too keen, so he did what he could. It's not too bad. I'm satisfied with it anyhow. Now the exhaust pipe is meant to be stainless. It certainly doesn't look it anymore. It's got a stainless, shiny stainless tip welded on from there backwards. The only thing I'd change out of the exhaust probably is I'd probably have this tip facing back out and away from the tow bar, just so I don't get the black soot accumulation on the tow bar aspect, but that's just an aesthetic rather than a performance thing. Well, that's all I've got to show you on the exhaust and the intake of the Cruiser.